Hi everybody, my name is Abuti Rams. I'm still, doing Abuti Rams live with you guys, and I'm excited to be embarking on this journey with you. You are doing amazing stuff. You are subscribing. You are liking. You're commenting. This is amazing, guys. We're growing this online community where we are learning about entrepreneurship. We're learning about business. We're learning about investments. We're learning about a whole lot of things. And today is no different. We are sitting down with a man who's, the guru of entrepreneurship, if there's such. And we are sitting down with Mr. Mashudu Modau, and I think I pronounced your name correctly, ne?
Yeah.
So Mr. Mashudu is, an interesting figure within the entrepreneurship space, and I think in the ecosystem that we have within Africa, not just South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to briefly himself, just share a bit about himself, and then tell us who he is, what he does, and what we can expect also from him in 2020 as well.
Cool. So my name is Mashudu Modau, like you mentioned. I don't think anyone's ever described me as a figure.
Okay.
That's the first. So I'm a youth entrepreneurship evangelist. What that means for me is that I preach, I galvanize, support, I obsessively try and get people excited and really happy about entrepreneurship in South Africa. So I literally just live my life to try and create as many resources, tools, events, experiences, connections and communities around entrepreneurship, and try and really be an ecosystem stakeholder that can really change the ecosystem for other people, right? So when I started a business around 8 years ago, it was a small website for matriculants to get past papers.
Oh, wow.
And I found it very hard to get the right support, right? So getting the right incubator, getting into the right spaces, the right events, learning the right things, having the right tools. And that friction that I had with that experience, at the end of that sort of journey of that business, I was like, that's something I want to solve, right? So I tried to solve this one problem, this is the next thing. And for me, it was, I want to help as many people navigate the entrepreneurship ecosystem as best as possible. So don't have that 6 months where you're trying to find the right incubator. Don't spend 6 months in the wrong incubator. Spend the time that really matters in your business doing things that really matter, and having the resources at the right time that actually fit what your need is.
Okay. So coming from Soweto, you're born in Soweto, right?
Yeah.
And how has that been an experience for you growing up in that environment in terms of entrepreneurship? You're speaking about, I think you've probably seen the likes of your Mr. Maponya, having his entrepreneurship journey, spanning from that area. How has it been? And if you compare it with growing up back then until now, how is the entrepreneurship space now?
So I don't even think there was an entrepreneurship space at the time. I don't think the older generation felt it was important for them to impart anything on the younger generation.
Goodness. Yeah.
I think when I look at just my family specifically, and I think this is a case-by-case basis, but I don't think there was anyone in my family that was an entrepreneur. It looked so out of the world. It looked so risky. It looked like jumping from a plane without a parachute.
Sure.
Right. So when I started really thinking about these things, it was much later on, so high school, right? So in early age, the only thing I saw as an entrepreneurship was really just the guy that owned a bakery, the guy that owned a spaza shop, and it wasn't something that I was exposed to. It's not something I saw. Entrepreneurship is not a word that was said in my space, and it's something that I had to educate myself into, learn about, and really get exposed to at a much later age. And I think now is a much better time because it's so much more open, right? So entrepreneurship is the pop music, the rock music, the hip hop music of today, and it's the most fascinating of careers right now, right? So back in the day, it was about how can you become a public servant. Teachers, doctors, nurses, those were the revered careers, right? So people were going, if you really want to be successful, you need to be one of those things because that's beautiful, that's amazing. It's service, right?
Sure.
Whereas now it's like, that's changing slowly and fast in some cases, where people are going, okay, what more is there? Is it possible to become a creative? Is it possible to become an entrepreneur, a world builder, innovator, and not just be limited by what perspective we grew up sort of learning?
Sure.
So it's a much better environment as well. I feel back in the day you needed a whole lot more to try and really get things done, and restrictions and bureaucracy of something like, say, for example, banks being the only source where small businesses could get their funding, versus now where you have hundreds of different options for how you can actually fund your business, and the support systems are so much better. And I just think we're living in a generation where entrepreneurship is truly having its moment, and entrepreneurs, although they've always been through generations been the people that really catalyze change and evolution, this is when it's really become a pop culture phenomenon, and something that people really genuinely have in their mindset a lot earlier on.
Sure. A lot of people are saying that the South African entrepreneurs are not as as aggressive as the other ones that you find in the continent, the likes of your Kenya, your Rwanda and your Ugandas, who are actually, you're finding a lot of entrepreneurs who are really thriving. An interesting one is actually Sierra Leone, where you find that a lot of entrepreneurs now are taking those diamonds from the sea and now selling them in the markets, which we call illegal mining in our country, of course, and we are seeing that aggressiveness because they want to change the lives from their homes. And I think entrepreneurship has always been about that, changing your own environment before thinking about making money and all those things, but changing your environment. Do you think that we are a lazy nation? Do you think that we have lazy entrepreneurs in the country?
So I always hear that South Africans are lazy, but I think so another thing you'll hear is South Africans are entitled, and I think we have a very complicated history that feeds into our existence right now that we don't really factor in sometimes, right? So I also think you have to be very objective about how you analyze each sort of ecosystem, right? Comparing South Africa's ecosystem to, say, or just getting more specific, you can't even compare Joburg's ecosystem to Cape Town's ecosystem versus Durban's ecosystem. So comparing Joburg to Lagos versus Nairobi versus Kigali is really like a very complex thing. And you have to think about the cultures, the upbringing, the childhood, the support structures, the family dynamics, and so much more that goes into building up a person before you start going, are entrepreneurs lazy in South Africa? Right, so I think there's a cultural difference amongst all these different cities, all these different nationalities, and that factors into the sort of entrepreneurship we usually go into. So I think the one thing that South Africans are not is lazy. South Africans are not lazy. You've seen generations upon generations of people who have gone, you know what, the government isn't going to do anything for us, we're going to do something for ourselves. There's places across the country where people are farming mainly just to survive, and no one calls that entrepreneurship. People have been doing this, right? People growing, everything, right? From whether it's subsistence farming, whether it's choosing to be self-employed in some way, right? People that run spaza shops back in the day, no one called that entrepreneurship. But this man was solving a problem, right? And there's so many more examples where you can see that entrepreneurs genuinely and at a very deep level really care about solving problems, yes, but also providing for their families. And I think that's the type of entrepreneurship that people don't celebrate enough. So you want people to be building Google, you want people to be building Facebook, you want them to be building the next Amazon, but you don't even think about the guy that has built a very small business, that, say, a car wash business with a chisanyama on the side or something like that, and he might not be the next Bill Gates, but he's doing something that really matters and solves a big need, which is really providing for his family. But no one's gonna go to that guy and celebrate him. No one's giving him an interview. No one's gonna put him on the cover of Forbes, because to them that's not enough. There is entrepreneurship, and there's a very strong culture of entrepreneurship. But I think it's something that's still growing, still developing, and as our as young people get more into sort of more powerful positions in politics, in corporates, and all of that, it starts to influence culture, and you have way more entrepreneurs starting way more earlier because they know more. So the more the education there is, the better the ecosystem is as well. So definitely. Like I said, if I don't get on, if I only hear the word entrepreneurship the day I walk into a small a business studies class in school, it's already too late, right? If I didn't grow up working for my uncle in his, carpet shop, it's already too late. Because there's a lot of cultures. So say, for example, in Jewish culture, is in Indian culture or Muslim culture, where young people grow up working in their uncles or their dads or their grandfathers' businesses. They get to see the process so much earlier. Most of us don't. And that disparity changes the culture, right? So the more of this changes, where people are getting introduced to it earlier, people are getting resources earlier, families start going. When I told my mom, hey, I want to start a business, she said, you're crazy, you've never seen anyone do this, why would you do that? But if my mom's reaction is, okay, I think I have some money, here it is, just see if it works, let's try and test it, I think I know someone at work that can help you build a business plan or something like that. If the reaction is different, and the education is different, and the support and the resources are different, the people are different, and the sort of businesses we start to see in the world start to change as well.
Interesting. When you're speaking about your mom, and what we understand about entrepreneurship as well, I want to pick your brain, and there's something that is very controversial, which I also speak about most of the time. That can anyone become an entrepreneur? Do we have the ability to become business people or entrepreneurs? And if that is not possible, are we then saying that entrepreneurship is a calling of some sort, or is it a skill that we have to impart in someone? Because when we mention about your mom, and I'm thinking about my mom, that my mom used to work at a hotel, and in the morning she would cook fed cooks magwenya, and 4 o'clock wakes up in the morning, cooks magwenya for the colleagues that she works with, and we have about 200 and something colleagues in the hotel, and then from there in 7 o'clock she's getting ready to go to do her 9 to 5, and I'm asking myself that this is the woman who cannot say that, go out in the public or on Facebook and say, I'm an entrepreneur, I run a business and whatnot, but she's doing what we call entrepreneurship. She's making business.
I'd have to challenge that, right? So if you go on Twitter now, I think it's a very different culture. That's why I talk about like the difference in generations and sort of legacy thinking, right? So if you go on Twitter, there's this guy, I think this week or last week, he was trending on Twitter. He sells sandwiches on the corner of the street. Everyone is celebrating him as an entrepreneur because there is value in what he's doing, right? So it might not be him building, Google or whatever, but like there is something he is doing that most people are not, which is he is building a business. And he went from having, one place that he was selling from, and then he opened a new branch, and he's trying to scale this up. And you look at that, I'm going, that is exactly what we're talking about. Like, it's not about how fancy it looks, which suit you have, which socks you have. Like, it genuinely is something that I genuinely think anyone can do. I think it is something that you, I think it's something that will take a lot out of you as well. Right? So there's a reality around entrepreneurship that we also need to face, which is like, you can't keep telling people, hey, you can all be entrepreneurs, or hey, you need to start a business. So for example, yesterday I saw the unemployment statistics, right? So it's about 16 million people in South Africa who are unemployed, right? The one thought I had was like, why isn't this country burning? Because 16 million people, that's unsustainable, right? And people start saying, oh no, you should, start a business. And they tell people that are unemployed, hey, you should start a business. But how? It takes resources. It takes having so much more than just someone say that. Like, you can't motivate me into building this thing. If there's support that goes into that, if there's, okay, hey, we think you could do something like this, okay, give them a training or incubation of some sort that teaches them business skills that actually matter.
Sure.
Okay, let's take you through an incubation program. After that incubation program, we'll give you a certain amount of funding, and you can test out your idea with the certain amount of funding. If that works out, we keep supporting you. You can find other organizations that can support you. So it can't just be this blanket start a business. It needs to be, hey, start a business, I think you should start a business. Here's an incubation program. Here's support. Here's capital. And build out an ecosystem that actually supports people becoming entrepreneurs, rather than just motivating and saying, "Hey,
you can,
you can do it." But how?
How?
Right? If you don't, if you can't tell people to do something if you don't give them a how.
The how part.
And you give it a full process of full support and full resources to be able to really get them to the point where that can actually be possible.
I would like to prick your brain on this one, but before we could do that, guys, you are still watching Abuti Rams Live. It's a show where we speak about business. We speak about a lot of things that within business, which is marketing, sales, whatever that we can think about. And we're inviting a lot of great entrepreneurs within our continent to speak about business. And something that we want to share with you guys, even moving forward, is that we're going to grow the channel to become great in Africa. We're going to invite a lot of African leaders and business leaders within the continent to share this with us. If you are watching this and you haven't subscribed, please click on the subscribe button right at the bottom, and also like and share also on your social media platforms this the episode that we're watching with Mashudu. We're going to learn more about his journey as well. We're going to enter into the state of the entrepreneurship address, which I believe that he can do very well. Mr. Mashudu, you are given the platform to address us as an entrepreneur yourself.
This is crazy.
We are approaching the State of the Nation address, and I think some of the key things that we need to be looking into is, of course, in every State of the Nation address, is the economy. How the economy is performing, how we can improve on the economy, how badly we performed in the last financial, and I feel that we are on an autopilot mode as a country in terms of the economy. And I think a lot of people didn't actually notice that 2019 was a bit rough for a lot of people. I know a couple of my friends around who are running businesses. They were taking people out of the company because they couldn't afford these people. And these are entrepreneurs which we could hire about 10, 15 people. And now if they're taking 5 from 10, which means we affected about 20 more lives because those 5 people, probably they are having 2 people that they are supporting at their homes. And I want to hear from you your sense of the state of entrepreneurship or business. I don't want to talk about the economy. I don't think you're an economist that you can share much knowledge about it, but if you can as well, you can tap into that. But the state of entrepreneurship, where are we as entrepreneurs? What are we doing wrong and what are we doing right? And how can we also maximize on what we're doing right? Yeah.
So it's a really, the fortunate thing that I have is being able to sit on both sides, which is like the ecosystem side, which is sort of the people that are meant to be supporting and enabling entrepreneurs as much as possible, but also on the entrepreneur side of just being an entrepreneur,
yourself,
building something on my own, right? I read an interesting stat, I think it was last week, that the number of liquidations by small businesses or by businesses in general is on the rise. So a lot of businesses are now just closing doors and just, now it's basically just closed doors and there's nothing left. Guys, I'm sorry, it's over. I noticed last year a lot more brands were pulling back on the, sort of money they were spending. A lot of businesses started getting very protective of budget. They started seeing that, oh wait, we need to get more careful, way more strategic around what they spend money on and who they hire and how much value that person can bring. Even with businesses, just B2B businesses, where it's getting way more competitive to go, okay, but how much can you bring us in terms of business when you say you can do something for us? So now it's really bottom line thinking, where it's like we don't have room to play with. There's no sort of, let's try and test things out. It's very much, okay, can you deliver on the result? I think where we're moving to now is a place where you're going to see a lot less support from corporate and brands for actual entrepreneurs. So the ecosystem as it exists now, what happens is brands will go, hey, we want to support initiative that really supports entrepreneurs. So they'll pump money into that sort of initiative, and that initiative will sort of help entrepreneurs build their businesses in some way. You're going to see a lot less of that. So the less money that the corporates have, the less money that they can pump into these different programs. With less support for the actual entrepreneurs on the ground and the ecosystem itself, it means the entrepreneurs suffer as well. So if you can't, say for example, find an incubator that can help you out, build out your product, then it means you have a lot longer to try and go in order to actually build the thing that you're building, right? So you're not going to have the support structure that you really want. I'm not saying these are going to vanish completely. What I'm saying is there's going to be a reduction, and that reduction is going to affect a lot of people. So that change in the ecosystem dynamic where they have less money to really support entrepreneurs really trickles down to the entrepreneurs themselves, and not having the resources to be able to really learn as much as they want to, and also build out what they want to in a patient manner as well. So there's also this idea of patient capital, right? So South Africa doesn't have a lot of it, but there was that sense that it was growing. So a lot of people where they can give you money in order to start your business, but there's a sense that they understand that this might take way longer than a normal investment. So we're going to give you money, but we're going to give you a lot more time in order for you to actually pay it back. You're going to see a reduction of stuff like that as well, where people are going, wait, we don't actually have the time to wait for this money to come back. It might need to be a lot faster, which means putting pressure on entrepreneurs a lot more. I think the one thing that I'm really happy and really positive about with the entrepreneurs in South Africa is like the sense that people don't necessarily need to assimilate to what entrepreneurship is in the US and what it is in the UK. Now it's going, okay, what are we as entrepreneurs in South Africa actually good at, and what is the need of the people that we are trying to serve? You're starting to see a lot of small businesses that really cater to South Africans, right? So if you look at businesses like Walk Fresh by Letabo, Theo's, Batu, so much more, right? But these are businesses that are built around South African problems and going, okay, we understand where our customer is, who our market is, and what we can do. The guys that offer the most value are the ones that are going to survive this whole period. Because it's not now about, whether or not something is cheaper or it's more expensive. It's about how much more value can it give, right? So how much more can I pull out of what is actually existing and what you have to offer me, and how much more can we actually quantify as well. So a big thing that I think people really need to also get into is like adding numbers to everything, right? So as your business, you really need numbers for each and everything that you have, and find a way to like measure every single thing in your business. So whether it's social media, whether it's business performance, each and everything in your business needs to have a number attached, because what that allows for you to be able to measure it and also show its impact on someone else. Right. So whether it's I think a really cool up and coming trend is sort of digital entrepreneurship, with sort of people becoming influencers and stuff like that. People like that needing to go, okay, before it was about how much eyeballs I could give a brand, now it's about how much conversion I can give a brand. Because when economies get tough, it becomes about conversion. How many people can actually buy the thing that I'm asking you to advertise? I don't want the retweets, I don't want the views, I want people clicking to buy. And that's the shift that needs to happen with a lot of South African entrepreneurs. So the big thing that really I think we need to improve on, I don't think we're doing it wrong, but I think we need to improve on, is really becoming very obsessed with learning. So learning about everything in your business, whether it's the accounting, the business management, the development of your business, building systems in your business, so that even if you're not there, there's more that can be happening with the people that actually work in your business. And having business development, whether from an incubator or from a provider, just like is super impactful. And really learning and being obsessed about how your business actually works and how you can take it to the next level. The reality is the South African economy cannot run without small businesses. And if they are dying, the economy
is dying as well.
And if we can't ensure that those sort of systems and programs and all of those ecosystem factors that really support entrepreneurs are sustained, it's going to be a very difficult time for the entrepreneurs themselves as well. So I think the state of it right now is that there needs to be a very high level of work on yourself, on your business, to really build out something that is valuable, to create a disproportionate amount of value. So when someone says, you know, two guys are cleaning sneakers and they have both have the same price, who's the one that's offering disproportionate value? So the guy that says, you know what, I'll deliver it to your house, that's the guy right now. Or the guy that says, you know, we'll guarantee you 3 more washes after this because you're such a loyal client. It becomes a value game, right? And focusing on that value and focusing on making sure that you get the right resources, the right support, that becomes way more important as well. So yeah, it's a very, very complex ecosystem.
Interesting.
But I think entrepreneurs just shouldn't stop. We can't afford it. We just can't afford it.
Mashudu, in 30 seconds, what would be your advice to entrepreneurs, you know, still within the early stages of 2020? What should we do right?
Assess whether or not you are building a product that actually solves a problem for a significant amount of people, because that justifies why a business exists and whether or not it will actually grow. That's it.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Cool.
Okay, guys, we are sitting down with Mashudu Modau. If you are on social media, you must check him out. He has a podcast as well for entrepreneurs that you must check it out. And we'll also share the link with it on our YouTube video that we just going to show for you guys. And please be patient with us with a lot of these things that we're trying to shoot. We were in between doing business and also, you know, sharing some knowledge with a lot of entrepreneurs, meeting up with a lot of entrepreneurs who are doing amazing stuff in Africa. Subscribe, like, share. We really appreciate the support that you guys are showing us, and we keep on growing because of you guys. And thank you so much.